Hey Venkat, and a massive welcome to all your friends tuning in today. Grab your notebooks, get comfortable, because you have just stepped into your ultimate social science masterclass. I know you guys have that huge 7th standard exam right around the corner, and honestly, I am here to make sure you absolutely ace it. In this explainer, we're going to break down the pillars and the evolution of democratic governance. My goal? To make these concepts so clear and relatable that they practically memorize themselves. So, you ready to become a civics expert? Let's get to work.
All right, here is your game plan, basically your master exam syllabus for today. First, types of government explained. Second, direct versus indirect democracy. Third, the evolution of democracy. Fourth, power to the people. Fifth, the rule of law. And finally, number 6, a complete democratic society. Venkat, I promise you, if you can master these 6 points, you'll be totally bulletproof for whatever test questions come your way.
So, starting off with Section 1, Types of Government Explained. Let's figure out who actually holds the power. Okay, let's dive right into this. To truly understand what a democracy is, we kind of have to understand what it isn't, right? Venkat, pay super close attention to this contrast, because teachers love testing this. On one side, you've got absolute monarchy, which is ruled by a king or queen, and dictatorship, which is ruled by an all-powerful dictator. Notice the key words here. They are unelected, they hold absolute power, they act entirely above the law, and they are completely unaccountable to the people. Basically, they do whatever they want. Now look at the alternative. Democracy is the exact opposite. It literally stands for people's rule. In a democracy, regular citizens are actively involved in forming the government, either directly or indirectly. The big takeaway for your exam is this exact contrast. Absolute, completely unaccountable power versus the shared, accountable power of the people.
Moving right along to Section 2, direct versus indirect democracy. Basically, how do we actually participate?
So now that we know the people hold the power in a democracy, let's look at the nuts and bolts of it. The word democracy itself actually gives you a literal cheat code to its meaning. It comes from 2 ancient Greek words, demos, which means people, and kratia, which means power. People power! Venkat, seriously, write this down right now. Teachers go crazy for the Greek roots of this word on tests. If you just remember demos and kratia, you will always remember that democracy literally means the rule of the common people.
Now, this people power actually plays out in the real world in 2 main ways. First up is direct democracy. This is where the government is elected and run directly by the people themselves. But think about it. In countries with huge populations, having every single person vote on every single little issue, it would be total chaos, right? It just isn't practical. So that's why we have indirect or representative democracy, where we the people elect representatives for a fixed term to run the government for us. For your exam, you absolutely need to remember these specific real-world examples. For direct democracy, think Switzerland at the state level and the Gram Sabha, the village meetings right here in India. For representative democracy, India as a whole country is your absolute best example. Okay, so we established India is a democracy, but you've probably heard it called a democratic republic, right? So why the extra word? Well, a republic is simply a country where the head of state, our president, is also elected by the people. This is totally different from a monarchy, where a king or queen just inherits the throne by birth. So, India is a democratic republic because we, the citizens, elect both the government making the day-to-day decisions and the head of the state.
All right, on to Section 3, the evolution of democracy. We're taking a quick journey through time.
So, democracy wasn't just magically invented perfectly overnight. Let's walk through these historical milestones. First stop is ancient Greece. Now, while they introduced the idea, it was actually heavily flawed. They didn't grant voting rights to all men and certainly not to slaves. Fast forward way ahead to the late 18th century, and the modern understanding of democracy finally started to take shape. But the real game changer? Look at milestone number 3, 1893. New Zealand became the first nation in the world to grant equal voting rights to all its citizens. Memorize that year and that country, Venkat. It's a huge test point. Today, democracy is this ever-evolving concept. As our understanding of equality and human rights grows, democracy kind of absorbs these changes and takes on new, better meanings. Next up, Section 4, Power to the People. This is all about your role in the system. Let's see how all this history builds toward the absolute ultimate authority in any democratic nation, the citizens themselves. Venkat, I want you to lock this quote into your memory bank right now. Democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This famous quote by Abraham Lincoln, "It is absolute gold for your essay questions." It perfectly summarizes the fact that supreme power lies with the people. There's literally no authority higher than the people. The power to govern belongs to the whole community, not just some special elite class. And it means the government has to work for the welfare of everyone. But you might be wondering, how do you and I actually use this supreme power? Well, you have two incredibly important tools. Tool number one, elections. All adult men and women vote to elect their representatives. But here is the absolute crucial part. If the people aren't satisfied, they can use those same elections to remove that government. You don't just hire them, you can fire them. Tool number two, public opinion. A democratic government's policies have to reflect what the people actually want. Through elections and public opinion, every single citizen helps shape the destiny of the country. Make sure you fully grasp both of these because they are literally the engines of a working democracy. Moving to Section 5, the rule of law. Think of this as the ultimate shield. So what happens if someone really powerful tries to break the rules? That is exactly where our next concept comes in, as the great equalizer. The key word here is absolute equality. The rule of law simply means that everyone is equal before the law. The president of a country and an ordinary, everyday citizen, they get the exact same protection. The law makes zero distinction between rich or poor, educated or uneducated. It does not matter how rich or powerful a person might be. Absolutely no individual is above the law. They are bound by the exact same rules as you and me. And this equality isn't just about political power. It's heavily about basic human rights. The rule of law acts as a vital shield against horrific historic social evils. Venkat, here's a really handy mental signpost for your exam. Mentally group these three specific social evils together so you can easily rattle them off on test day. Untouchability, child marriage, and sati. The rule of law guarantees protection against these and all other forms of discrimination, making sure everyone's basic human rights are actually respected. So, if we all have to follow the law, I've got a direct question for you and your friends listening right now. Who actually makes these laws for us? Take a second, really think about it before I give you the answer. Did you guess it? Unlike a monarchy where some king just decrees the law, in a democracy, it's the people who make the laws for themselves. We do this either directly or, as we talked about earlier, indirectly through our elected representatives. For your exam, you need to know exactly how the setup works in India. At the national level, it is the parliament, which is made up of our representatives, that makes laws for the entire country. And at the state level, it's the state assemblies that make the laws for the individual states. Parliament for the country, state assemblies for the state. Lock that in for sure. And finally, Section 6, a complete democratic society. Because democracy goes way beyond just voting. So we've covered voting and laws, but as you'll see, just holding an election every few years isn't nearly enough to make a country truly democratic. To have what we call a complete democracy, you really need to conquer three distinct steps. Step 1 is the political system, which means establishing everyone's right to vote. Crucial, but just the start. Step 2 is creating a democratic society, meaning democratic values are actually a part of our everyday social interactions. And Step 3 is economic democracy, meaning those very same values exist in how we run our economy. You see, a country might have elections and laws, but without all three of these steps working together, it isn't truly a complete democracy in the widest sense. All of these concepts we've talked about today bring us to one beautiful central goal: to embed three core values into every single part of our lives: justice, freedom, and human dignity. These aren't just fancy words for politicians to throw around. They literally have to be deeply embedded in our political life, our social life, and our economic life. That right there is the ultimate goal of the entire democratic system we've just studied. Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. Look around your own world today. Is just having the right to vote enough? Or do you see justice, freedom, and human dignity truly embedded in your everyday life, walking down the halls of your school and in your local community? Really think about that as you review your notes tonight. Venkat, you have been an absolutely fantastic student today, and you are now fully equipped with the knowledge to totally conquer this social science exam. You understand the pillars, you know the history, and you grasp the true meaning of democracy. Make sure you share this explainer with all your friends so you guys can review these concepts and ace that 7th standard test together. Keep questioning things, keep learning, and best of luck on the exam. You're going to crush it.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome, Venkat, to your ultimate explainer. Listen, I am so pumped to be your guide today because what we're looking at right now, it's literally your secret key to completely understanding and absolutely acing your 7th standard social science exam. We're going to break down the foundations of democratic governance in society. And I promise you, by the time we wrap up this masterclass, these concepts aren't just going to be, memorized lines from a textbook. They're going to make perfect sense. Let's get to it.
All right, so here's our game plan for today, Venkat. We'll start with forms of government, then move on to India's political democracy, building a democratic society, achieving economic democracy, and finally, we'll tie it all up with the true meaning of democracy.
Section 1. Forms of government. Understanding the basics of rule.
So, to really get a firm grip on what a democracy is, we actually need to figure out what it isn't, right? We got to look at its opposites. So, I'm going to put you on the spot for a quick second here, Venkat. Imagine you're sitting right there in the exam hall, and boom, this exact question pops up on your paper. What is absolute monarchy? How would you answer that? Just take a quick sec to think about it.
Well, here's the perfect answer you're going to want to write down. Absolute monarchy is a form of government where a king or a queen has absolute powers and is actually above the law. Basically, the rules that apply to you and me, they don't apply to the ruler. Oh, and if you want those sweet bonus points on your exam, make sure to mention Saudi Arabia as the key modern example of this system.
Let's keep this flashcard rhythm going, all right? Next big question. What is dictatorship? And maybe more importantly, how is it different from that monarchy we just talked about?
Okay, so a dictatorship means rule by an unelected, all-powerful dictator. Venkat, I want you to really lock onto those two specific words, unelected and all-powerful. In a dictatorship, the people literally get zero say in voting for their leader. And once that person is in charge, it's total control. Burn those keywords into your brain for sure.
Now, let's look at democracy itself. There are two main types, and this perfectly explains why India does things the way it does. First up is direct democracy. That's where people directly form and run the government themselves. But hold on, think about India for a second, Venkat. We're talking about well over 1 billion people. Could everyone just gather in a giant field to make every single little decision? No way, right? It's just totally impractical. So that's exactly why we have the second type, indirect democracy. This is the system we use in India. We vote for elected representatives, and they make the decisions on our behalf. But the big takeaway here is that in both systems, the supreme power still lies with the people. Democracy is, at its core, the rule of the common people.
Moving on to Section 2, India's political democracy. Pillar 1, political power.
All right, so we're building the first pillar of our giant house of democracy right now, the political pillar. And here's another absolute classic, guaranteed to be on your test kind of question to keep you on your toes. Why is India called a democratic republic? We know the democracy part, but what does that word republic actually add to the mix?
Well, here's the crucial definition you need. A republic is a country where the head of state, which for us in India is the president, is elected by the people. So put it all together, India is a democratic republic because we do both things. Democratic means we elect our government, and republic means we elect our head of state. It's like a 2-for-1 deal that proves the real power is completely held by the people.
Now listen super closely to this quote, Venkat, because this right here is the absolute golden rule of democracy. Rule of law means that all people are equal before the law. No one is above the law, and everyone gets equal protection. Remember a few minutes ago when we said a monarch is above the law? Well, not in our system. Not the richest billionaire, not the most powerful politician in the country. Everyone is on a totally equal playing field when it comes to the law. Okay, so how do we, the regular citizens, actually use our power? If your exam asks how people participate in governance, this is your ultimate checklist. First up, elections. These let us pick our leaders and, this is a huge one, kick a government out if they aren't doing a good job. Second, public opinion. Alongside elections, this is a massive tool for shaping the whole destiny of the country. Third is Parliament. That's the big institution in India making the laws for us. And fourth, village panchayats. Those are the democratic institutions working right there at the local grassroots level. Definitely memorize those 4.
All right, Section 3, building a democratic society. Pillar 2, social democracy. Now, Venkat, I kind of got to warn you about something here. Just having political power, like the right to vote, that's not enough on its own. For a democracy to really work, the society itself has to be fair. So what does a truly democratic society actually look like? Well, it's got a few absolute non-negotiables. First, zero discrimination based on religion, caste, race, gender, or where you were born. Second, all men and women have to be treated totally equally. No one gets special privileges just because of who their family is.
And finally, and this is so critical, it requires the total abolition of social evils, like the caste system and untouchability. See, historically, these things built huge walls between people and robbed so many of their basic rights. A real democracy has to grab a sledgehammer and smash those walls down.
And that perfectly highlights the main point of this whole chapter. Political democracy is completely meaningless if the social life of the people is still packed with injustice. You just cannot have a truly democratic government without a fair, democratically organized society to back it up. They are a package deal.
Which brings us to Section 4, Achieving Economic Democracy. Pillar 3, Economic Freedom.
So, we talked about voting, and we talked about social equality. Now let's build our third and final pillar, which is all about fairness in how people actually live and work. Now pay close attention here, Venkat, because economic democracy does not mean every single person makes the exact same amount of money or lives in the exact same type of house. That's a super common mix-up. What it actually means is equal opportunities. Everyone gets a fair shot to get a job or start a business. It means no exploitation. Owners can't exploit their workers, landlords can't exploit peasants. It demands equal pay for equal work, whether you're a man or a woman. And it means a fair distribution of wealth, so all the money isn't just hoarded by a tiny group of people.
Because really think about it. If you deprive someone of their livelihood, you're going against the whole point of democracy. You're literally denying their right to equal opportunities and economic growth. Liberty and equality are absolutely mandatory for this to work. If a citizen isn't economically free, their political vote kind of loses a lot of its punch, you know?
All right, almost there. Section 5, True Meaning of Democracy, bringing the three pillars together.
Venka, you have been doing an awesome job tracking with me today. Now it's time for the ultimate summary. We're going to tie this whole thing together so you can see the big picture right before your exam. Seriously, take a mental screenshot of these three pillars right now. This matrix, this is your ultimate cheat sheet. It shows how a real, wider understanding of democracy means all three pillars have to stand strong together. Political democracy gives us the power to elect rulers. Social democracy makes sure we're free from discrimination. And economic democracy guarantees equal opportunities and fair wages. Think of it like a three-legged stool. If just one of those legs snaps, the whole thing comes crashing down.
And that brings us to the big, powerful takeaway of our masterclass today. If you only remember one single sentence from this explainer, make it this one. Democracy is not just a form of government, it's a form of society and economy built on justice, freedom, equality, and human dignity. It's not just a political system, it's a complete way of life.
Venkat, I am so proud of your focus today. You literally hold the secret keys to absolutely acing this 7th standard social science exam. You've crushed the forms of government, you know exactly what a democratic republic is, and you've mastered the three pillars of true democracy. But hey, real learning doesn't stop with just you. So which of your friends in 7th standard are you going to share this explainer with? Send it to your classmates, quiz each other on these concepts, and make sure you all completely crush that exam together. Good luck!